took on huge ramifications. But you might say, well, Chaplain, how so? It's just a piece of fruit. It probably tasted good, but what was wrong? What was going on? For those who are parents, if you give a command, it doesn't matter if you understand why it's given, but if you go against it, there's ramifications, right?
Amen.
And what will happen during that moment in time is man's spiritual DNA will become corrupted. Instead of a natural disposition that says, I want to say, I want to please the Lord, serve Him, love Him, which allows me to love my fellow man, it got twisted. It got twisted all inside. And that spiritual DNA became the sin nature. It's the sin nature that each and every one of us has inherited at birth, passed down from parent to child. Next slide. And you say, how do you know this, Chaplain? Because the words written by King David, found in Psalm 51. Go back a slide, please. 51, verse 5. It says, surely I was sinful at birth, sinful from the time my mother conceived me. So what happens is this. The moment we come into this world, nobody has to teach us how to sin. Who here has newborn kids? Did they already tell you no already? Yes. They told you no, right? Mm-hmm. That's that sin nature. And because of that, we're now hostile toward God. We rebel against His ways. And now we're selfish, self-centered. God is no longer on the throne of our hearts, but we are. And now you understand why we see so much evil in the world. We were at fault, not God. And because we are condemned, waiting God's judgment, the result of that judgment is a place called hell. Let me quote Mark Driscoll. He's a pastor from Mars Hill Church out of Seattle, Washington, and he sums it up this way. He says, it makes perfect sense to me that a convicted criminal goes to prison. Similarly, it makes perfect sense that a condemned sinner goes to hell. You say, Chaplain, why can't God cover our sin? And His word is written in Habakkuk 1:13. Your eyes are too pure to look on evil. You cannot tolerate any wrong. Remember, He's the holy and just God. He can only be around the presence of holiness and perfection and beauty and love. Next slide. Thank you. And that verse right there in Revelation 21, verse 8, it reads, but the cowardly, the unbelieving, the vile, the murderers, the sexually immoral, those who practice magic arts, the idolaters, and all liars, their place will be in the fiery lake of burning sulfur. And this is the second death. What's going on in that passage is this. If somebody does not know Jesus Christ, when they die, they'll have to face the second death. Because the first death is when our bodies return back to the ground, right? Do we not all die? But the second death is when an unrepentant sinner is resurrected from the day of judgment, then is condemned to a place called hell, or the lake of burning sulfur. But let me slow down for a moment. Some of you might be saying, wait a minute, isn't God a God of love, not a God of vengeance? Have you guys said that, right? Isn't not God a God of love, not a God of vengeance? It says in the Bible, right? God is love, right? Perfect love casts out all fear, right? For God so loved the world, He gave His one and only Son, so whoever shall believe Him shall not perish. So if He's a loving God, why would He send people to hell? Well, first of all, I think when we think about that question, usually we have a mindset of viewing God from our perspective, right? Instead of viewing God from his perspective. And a lot of times when we think of God, we think that he's bipolar. I'm not making fun of anybody who might be bipolar on medication, but a lot of times we think God is bipolar. We think that God the Father is the Old Testament God of vengeance, right? And when we think about God the Son, Jesus Christ, we think he is the New Testament God of love. I want you to know the secret, guys. Guys, either or. He's both. He's holy, just, and loving. Remember, God is multifaceted. And he's a righteous judge. But also, he's a loving Father. But also, some of you might guys say, well, I don't think Jesus ever talked about hell. He's this nice, hippie, metrosexual guy, right? And you can do whatever you want. He doesn't care. He's going to hand out candy, lollipops, root beer floats, hats and coats, and all that good stuff. Seriously, some of you guys think that, right? But the thing is, if you go on the internet, a lot of people think the same things. I was on the internet, I was doing my research, and there's people out there saying, Jesus never talked about hell. I said, guys, this guy never read the Bible. You know what I'm saying? Or I saw some other things on Google. God just really doesn't believe in hell. Only we do. This foolish stuff. So I said, I need to go back into the Word and see what God has to say. Because God does not lie. He's not a man. Oh, thank God. I get lied to every day as a chaplain. But God does not lie. So, next slide. I'm going to take you through a series of verses. I'm just going to be in the book of Matthew right now because there's so many different verses out there. You just get bombarded. I'm just going to take you through the book of Matthew in the Gospels. And this is at the Sermon on the Mount. This is Jesus talking about hell. So if you have your Bible, turn to chapter 5, verse 22 of the book of Matthew. And the book of Matthew is the first book in the Gospels. This is Jesus talking. But I tell you that anyone who is angry with his brother will be subject to judgment. Again, anyone who says to his brother, Raka, is answerable to the Sanhedrin. But anyone who says, you fool, will be in danger of the fire of hell. Next slide. And then again, in a few verses down, in verse 30, Jesus says, if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to go into hell. Next slide. In Matthew chapter 10, verse 28, Jesus again is speaking to his disciples after a confrontation with the Pharisees. This may be a verse that you maybe heard read to you guys when the chaplain's trying to get you pumped up before you go out on the battlefield, maybe in Afghanistan or Iraq. And this verse says, do not be afraid of those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. Rather be afraid of the one who can destroy both soul and body and hell. Next slide. That's right, I have a lot of slides on this. We're going to break it down. Now in Matthew chapter 18, verse 9, Jesus is echoing the words that he said in the Sermon on the Mount. He says, and if your eye causes you to sin, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to enter life with one eye than to have two eyes and be thrown into the fire of hell. Let me pause real quick. Guys, don't cut out your eyeballs and cut off your hands and feet. It's a metaphor to say that wherever it causes you to sin, remove it. It's like radical amputation. If you struggle with pornography, get rid of it. If you struggle with adultery, get rid of Jody. Or you struggle with lying, try to hang on people who tell the truth. All right? If you feel convicted, that's God, it's not me. Take it up with God. Oh. Now, let me take you to the next one. Matthew chapter 23, verse 15. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites. You travel over land and sea to win a single convert. And when he becomes one, you make him twice as much a son of hell as you are. Guys, that's just the book of Matthew. I didn't even get you through the book of Mark, Luke, or John. Nor did I go through the epistles. I haven't gone through Revelation yet. When I was doing that research, I found out that Jesus talked about hell more than anybody else in the Bible, even more than the Old Testament prophets. That's hardcore.